Hello everybody and welcome back to yet another Logan Blackman Show YouTube video. As you can tell by the title, this video will be going over the first round of the 2025 NFL Draft. Oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, it's come and gone. The NFL Draft came and then it went. It's done. And I'm actually kind of relieved. I can't lie. I was a little stressed out going into the 2025 NFL Draft because I don't know if you guys felt the same way. I felt like it was the most unpredictable first round in a little bit. Just because we didn't know how many trades were going to take place. We didn't know if there were going to be any trades at all. Like, you going into the draft and not a single team had traded a first-round pick yet. And then you had Ryan Poles, the GM of the Chicago Bears, talking about there could be some explosiveness in the first 10 picks of the draft. So you're sitting here like, shit, who could trade up for who? It's like, you got the Jaguars talking about how much they love Ashton Genty. Is that an actual, real thing? Or do they just want the Chicago Bears to trade up with them from 10? Like, we had no idea what was going to happen. And the other thing was I couldn't really, pinpoint an exact need for some of these teams out here are like, oh, this team could draft a corner, but they could also draft a receiver. But they said their biggest need was off the line or D-line. It was just confusing, annoying, scary, but we got the draft all done. And yeah, it's the best event of the year. I would say the Super Bowl, but my team never plays the Super Bowl, so I can't really say that. But out of all the events I love watching, the NFL Draft is number one. And all we're watching, really, is Roger Goodell go on stage and just say a player's name, position in college. And we might have a special guest up there once in a while, but apart from that, it's not really if you just told somebody what you were watching, I don't think they would, if they didn't watch football, they wouldn't be able to understand how exciting the NFL Draft really is. And this year's, it just felt like it went really fast. It just felt like it breezed by. Like last year, it felt like we were at midnight when the NFL Draft ended. This year, I think the draft ended around 10:45, which I will take. But that's what you get when there's no real trades. I mean, we had the trade from 5 to 2 with the Jaguars and Browns, but apart from that, the next trade didn't come until pick 25. So we went pretty straight through the entire time, and I wouldn't say it was chalk by any stretch of the imagination because you could have really gone a multitude of different directions with each pick. And when quarterbacks are involved with positions, that kind of drastically changes how the draft can look at it. If a quarterback goes here, if a quarterback doesn't go there, where's the next available spot we can go with that position? And we'll talk about one in particular later on in the video. We'll obviously go over what my mock draft looked like. You can check that out down in the description below. And while you're down there, make sure to check out all the different links to the social media accounts, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Make sure to check out the Apple Podcast and Spotify accounts. Make sure to check out the YouTube podcast channel down below. You can also check out the Logan Blackman Show Draft Experts Draft Spectacular Show, which we did on Wednesday. So make sure to go check that on Apple Podcast, Spotify, the YouTube channel as well. But yeah, while you're also down there, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you like the video right now, we're 3 minutes in or something, make sure to give the video a thumbs up if you already liked it. And if you liked it even more at the end, give it a super thumbs up at the end of it. But let me know down in the description below how you felt about the NFL Draft, how you think your team did if they ended up picking the draft, or if you're a team like the Texans or the Rams, you didn't get to watch your team pick in the first round. How are you feeling about that going into today with day 2 of the NFL Draft starting in a few hours from now? But kicking things off with number 1, the Tennessee Titans, Cam Ward from Miami. So it fits that way. But this is a pick we kind of knew was going to have for the past couple weeks now. I mean, the Tennessee Titans' number 1 need was quarterback. They were non-committal to Will Levis. Him and Brian Callahan really didn't have the greatest working relationship. We talked about before about Will Levis being more of a meme than an NFL starting quarterback. I'm intrigued to see where he goes because I would imagine he gets traded sometime today. I would think anyways, if not today, then tomorrow. Cam Ward was just the best overall quarterback in this class. It was a pretty fine margin, or wide margin, not fine margin, by a wide margin. I mean, I think it was week 6 when I officially had him atop my quarterback prospect rankings, and he never really got scared of losing that spot throughout the entirety of the season. He was a 0-star recruit at a high school, ran a triple option offense, went to Incarnate Word, transferred up to Washington State, transferred down to Miami, where he just lit the world up, finished in the top 5 in the Heisman Trophy race, was an All-American. You couldn't have really asked for a better season from Cam Ward. Yes, you had the odd, questionable plays like the throws against Duke or Cal or the fumble against Georgia Tech. But if you want someone to make plays outside the pocket, be able to make plays off script, stay calm while doing that, with a good arm, being a good athlete as well, Cam Ward's your guy. And I think for the Tennessee Titans, they needed somebody like that, not somebody that's a glorified meme in Will Levis. You need that guy that you're comfortable with. And Cam Ward, he's now playing with his favorite head coach and his favorite receivers. So it all worked out in the end. I mean, it was like this was destined to happen, wasn't it? It just feels like it. But Ward at Washington State always had the talent. It was just a matter of if he can refine that, and he did so and much, much more while at Miami, and I'm excited to see what he does at the next level. Smart pick by the Titans at number 1. And number 2, we saw our first trade with the Jaguars trading up from 5 to 2 to select Travis Hunter. They always talked about wanting to, or not always, but they talked about wanting to add another playmaker on the offensive side of the ball. Liam Cohen coming in as an offensive-minded head coach. They were linked with McMillan in the past. We saw them linked with some of the tackles like Armin Membo in there. But as the week approached of the draft, or the week of the draft approached, they were getting linked with Ashton Genty. And I was sitting there like, I don't know if I believe this or not. Like, yes, Travis Etienne had a down year last year. Yes, he was basically benched for Tank Bigsby last year, but he did have back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. Liam Cohen coming in, I would imagine will just transform the rushing offense in general. Yes, it's not great right now, but you look what happened in Tampa Bay with how drastically the rush offense improved there. Yes, Bucky Irving came in and had a great rookie season, but Travis Etienne's a good running back. He is a good running back, so I'm excited to see what he does under Liam Cohen, but adding Travis Hunter to a team with Brian Thomas Jr. already is going to make Trevor Lawrence's life a whole lot easier. The most explosive player in the draft, can play both sides, obviously. They're obviously going to start him at one spot and probably wean him into the next one. I don't remember if they said what side of the ball they're going to start him on initially. Either way, he was the best overall player in the draft, Heisman Trophy winner and all that stuff, and I'm excited to see what he does in Jacksonville. And it's weird that I'm intrigued to see what Cleveland says was their reasoning for trading back. Yes, they got a really good player. They got a first-round draft pick out of it as well. But Travis Hunter just was laying right there, and the Browns were getting linked with Travis Hunter. Like, the Browns were an interesting team. We'll talk about them more in a little bit, but it was like they're going to draft a quarterback at 2. And then it was, they're going to draft Abdul Carter. They're zeroing in on Abdul Carter. And then before the draft, like, no, they really like Travis Hunter. So was it the Browns are trying to get the Jaguars to trade up while the Jaguars are getting the Bears to trade up? It was just a convoluted mess, but that's what you get with the NFL draft. But number 3, the New York Giants, Abdul Carter. Yes, there were some conversations around Shedeur Sanders here, but Abdul Carter, the next best player in the draft. You could really go 1A, 1B with Carter and Travis Hunter for the best overall player in the draft, but there's no denying that he was the best edge rusher in the draft for the Giants, who have Brian Burns, who have Kayvon Thibodeau there. Add another piece to that pass rush. Like, you look at the teams with the New York Giants in the mid-2000s and the early 2010s, where you had the likes of Michael Strahan, not the early 2010s with Strahan, but you had Michael Strahan, Osi Umenyiora, Justin Tuck in there. Like, they had a very fluid pass rush, and they could keep doing that here. I believe they picked up or are planning to pick up Kayvon Thibodeau's 5th-year option. There was a lot of links with him getting traded, so we'll see what happens there. But the Giants, it was the best player available. They have a lot of needs on their roster, and apart from quarterback, the next position teams usually target with premium selections is edge rushers. You're in a division with Dak Prescott, Jaden Daniels, and Jalen Hurts. You're going to need to get after the quarterback a little bit. So, getting someone in like Abdul Carter, I think, is a very smart move. I saw he was thinking about requesting 56. I don't know if we're going to get to that level, but great player, great at Penn State. We'll see what he does there, because he obviously transitioned to edge rusher this past year, compared a lot to Micah Parsons. So, hey, it all works out for the Giants. But we'll talk about their next pick here in a little bit. 4th overall pick, the Patriots, Will Campbell, and this guy just felt like a Patriot player. We talked about it for the past however many weeks now. Their number 1 goal is to protect Drake May. Yes, they were linked with Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter, and if they were available, that would have made things interesting, but Will Campbell definitely feels like a New England Patriot player. You could tell that when he put on the freaking hat as well. He's just suited for that role. They drastically improved the outside line already. They brought in Morgan Moses here. Yes, I know Morgan Moses isn't like a world beater or anything, but comparatively to what they had, yes, it is a drastic improvement from what they had. And I don't really care about Will Campbell's T-Rex arms or whatever they want to call him. Will Campbell's a damn good football player. He's the best offensive tackle in this draft, and your goal is to protect Drake May. You got the best guy to do that. I'm excited to see what he does. Not really. I hate the Patriots, but the Patriots will be better by proxy than what they were last year. The offensive line's already improved. They added Stephon Diggs in there. Drake May's in his 2nd year. Mike Vrabel in his head coach. So, yeah, it's going to be an intriguing season for the Patriots. I'm not going to be excited, but it's going to be an intriguing season nonetheless. Then the Browns at 5, Mason Graham, whose draft stock was all over the place prior to the draft. Like, we saw this guy as a bona fide lock, surefire, top 5 pick in the draft going to the Jaguars, because James Gladstone was talking about they wanted to improve the interior defensive line. Like, they were going to address that position. Yes, it's a loaded defensive line class, but you get a guy like Mason Graham at 5, you're sitting very pretty, who is widely considered to be the best defensive line prospect in this draft class, depending on where you view edge rushers and all that stuff. A D tackle, he was the best prospect there. Like, certified top 5 player in the draft. But people are talking about his measurables. Like, his ceiling, is it worth a top 5 pick? But for a team like the Browns, who, again, I'm still a little confused. Mason Graham's a great player. I don't want to make it sound like I think it's a bad player to get. But Travis Hunter was right there, and you didn't take him. But maybe you just want to keep focusing on the defensive line. You added, obviously, re-signed Myles Garrett. I mean, this was the pick he wanted. This is the picks. Remember, he was talking about winning. He wanted to go win Super Bowls and stuff like that. They traded for Kenny Pickett. They traded back to get Mason Graham. Like, these are the moves that he was wanting to stay in Cleveland. Mason Graham, definitely a good position to add along that defensive line. It's just crazy how much he fluctuated throughout the whole draft process. Not just the draft process, it was like the past couple weeks in the NFL draft. Like, they were talking about, like, oh, he's surefire top 5 pick. He might not be a top 10 pick. He might not even be the first defensive lineman taken in the draft. And then ultimately, he goes to where we thought he would go early on in the process. I didn't have him going here. I had Ashton Jeanty. I did end up buying into the rumor of the Jaguars taking Ashton Jeanty at 5, so I had him there. But Jeanty, he ended up going 6 to the Raiders. If he was available, the Raiders were going to take him. That was just simple as that. I mean, they were linked with him the entire offseason, pretty much. Like Pete Carroll, he wants to establish the run. He's a defensive-minded head coach. He wants to run the football. You look at where he's had success in the past at USC, the Seahawks. You look at Lendell White, Reggie Bush at USC, Marshawn Lynch at Seattle. Like, his great teams were predicated with the rush offense. And Ashton Jeanty, as he said in his Players Tribune post, get the guy they can't tackle. The Raiders had the worst rush offense in the NFL last year, and adding Jeanty along with Raheem Mostert, who you got a few weeks ago, I think is a drastic improvement from what you had last year. Yes, the offensive line could have been addressed here. I had them taking Kelvin Banks from Texas because Jeanty wasn't there. But Jeanty was the best player available and fills an immediate need for the Raiders. Had sick Crocs on as well. So we can't discount the drip as well. So he had that there. But yeah, makes a lot of sense there. The Jets at number 7, Armin Membo. This is the pick we had. Starting right tackle was their biggest position of need going into the draft. They had drafted Olu Fashanu with 11th overall last year. Remember when they traded back with the Vikings to take McCarthy. Fashanu will slot in at left tackle. Membo will play at right tackle. Yes, they were linked with Tyler Warren throughout the process as well. They were linked with some defensive players. Maybe Mason Graham was one of them. I saw Jalen Walker was a conversation. Jahdae Barron from Texas was also involved in those conversations. But in the end, they took the best player for the biggest position that they need. And the AFC East got 2 very good offensive linemen to protect their new quarterbacks. You got Drake May and Justin Fields with the Jets. But yeah, I brought this up in the Draft Spectacular show. The Detroit Lions, when they drafted Penei Sewell in 2021, they took him 7th overall. That was the pick that helped turn the franchise around, get them in the brighter side of things. So he plays right tackle. Membo plays right tackle. Hey, Aaron Glenn's a former Detroit Lion. Maybe the Jets turn things around after this. I don't want them to. I obviously don't want that to happen, but maybe it does. Maybe it does. Maybe this is the thing. Maybe it's not Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams and freaking Nate Hackett and all those guys. Maybe it's Aaron Glenn and Armin Membo. Maybe that's the direction that turns them around. But the Panthers, at 8. This one was interesting because it seemed like it was going to be between Jalen Walker and Teteroa McMillan from Arizona, and everything I saw said that they will take McMillan if Walker's not available. So when both of them were available at number 8, it was like, okay, well, they're going to take Jalen Walker. In the end, they took McMillan, which I think is a very smart move. I mean, Bryce Young had a very good second half of the season last year after getting his job back from getting benched for Andy Dalton. Getting Xavier Legette at the back half of the first round last year. I think getting a guy like McMillan's a very smart move. Big-bodied wide receiver. I mean, you have Canales coming in there, or not coming in there, he was there last year, but coming from Tampa Bay, where they had Mike Evans, someone who's been compared to Mike Evans a lot, is McMillan, who also been compared to Drake London as well. So you just got like the big-bodied wide receivers are going to the NFC, the NFC South, and we just need to wait to see who the New Orleans Saints end up taking at wide receiver at some point in time. They were also linked with McMillan, but yeah, I think it's a smart pick to build on what Bryce Young did last year, just continue to get weapons around him. Yes, the defense will still need improved because the defense was trash last year. Trash. And yes, Derek Brown will be coming back from injury. They signed J.C. Horn to a nice little extension, so I would imagine it'll be improved because it can't be much worse than what it was last year, but I like the pick. Walker was the guy who I ended up having going here, but it doesn't surprise me they went McMillan here. Number 9, the Saints, they took Kelvin Banks. If Banks was available, he was the guy I thought they would take. Because if you look at the recent draft history, not recent, but you look at the draft history with Mickey Loomis, with Ryan Ramczyk retiring, it was like, oh, they're going to draft an offensive lineman. Like, they drafted Fuaga last year, Trevor Penning. Then you look at players like Cesar Ruiz, Eric McCoy, Andres Peep, Ryan Ramczyk, Terran Armstead. Like, they use premium picks with offensive linemen in this draft. And this is like, when Drew Brees was there, their entire offensive line was drafted by them. They didn't use any other picks, trade any other players, sign anybody from free agency. They were all their own players. And with Trevor Penning's future constantly in question, it makes sense that Kelvin Banks would be the guy there, because you could slide Talisi Fuaga back to right tackle, which is where he played at Oregon State, and you play Kelvin Banks at left tackle. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I had them taking Mykel Williams from Georgia, the edge rusher. that's what it was. Either they take him, or if Kelvin Banks available, they take Kelvin Banks. Because also, they take a lot of edge rushers and defensive linemen early in the draft process as well. So those were my two options there. Yes, I had Jahdae Barron in the previous mock draft, but in this one, it was either Banks or Michael Williams. They ended up going with Banks, which I think is a very smart move for them. And especially with Kellen Moore coming in, wanting to continue to prove that offensive line, continue to prove the offensive side of the ball, and keep Spencer Rattler upright for the time being. At least that's what we know right now. They could end up drafting Tyler Shuck in the second round, so we'll have to wait and see on that. But number 10, the Bears, they took Colston Loveland. I had the right position. I had the wrong player. And I saw something before the draft that said the Bears preferred Loveland to Warren. But if you remember a couple weeks ago, Ben Johnson was waxing lyrically about Tyler Warren. I think it was at the NFL starter meeting or something like that. They were talking about, like, man, we were sitting down, me and Dennis Allen were sitting there like, this is a football player here. But Colston Loveland, I do think, fits what the Bears want to do with the 12 personnel, with the 2 tight end system, than Tyler Warren. Colston Loveland's a more natural receiver from the position. He's not as big as Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren's a freaking unit from the tight end position. He could do a lot of different things, but Loveland's a more natural receiver there. I think will fit in really nicely next to Cole Kmet, a very comparable player to that of Sam Laporta. So I think that fit goes in nicely there, but it's not surprising that they went Loveland. I do think it's funny, though, that people are, some people, I shouldn't say all of them, but some people are freaking about a tight end, but Cole Kmet's fine, but this isn't benching Cole Kmet. This is just adding to the offense. At least that's what you hope it does. Maybe Cole Kmet does get benched. I don't know. But this is just adding to the offense. It adds another weapon there. Like Ben Johnson said when he was talking about Tyler Warren, we're looking to add football players. We're adding difference makers. Like, the Lions didn't draft Jahmyr Gibbs at 12 because he was a running back. No, they drafted him because he was a difference maker. And that's what Colston Loveland could be to this offense. You wanted to build this offense around Caleb Williams, get the best out of him. One of the best ways to do that is get him a reliable pass-catching tight end like Colston Loveland. I think Tyler Warren would have been a nice pick, but Loveland was the higher player on their board. And yeah, it's annoying because I had Loveland going somewhere else who also took a tight end. We'll talk about them in a little bit. But 11, the Niners, they took Michael Williams. I didn't think he'd be here, but if you saw reports going into the draft, they were wanting an edge rusher. But with Williams going number 9 to the Saints in my mock draft and Jalen Walker going number 8, the next best edge rusher, who are you looking at there? You're looking at Shamar Stewart from A&M, James Pierce. You're looking at Mike Green. Like, would you take one of those guys with the 11th overall pick? So I ended up going with Walter Nolan, who went a little bit later. But you look at Robert Saleh coming back in, adding that presence along the defensive line. Like, you lost some key pieces along the defensive line, or got rid of some key pieces there as well. And Michael Williams will be a direct replacement for Leonard Floyd, partnering Nick Bosa along the defensive line, because John Lynch loves to draft defensive linemen. We talk about Mickey Loomis drafting offensive linemen. You look at John Lynch's history. You look at like Solomon Thomas, Javon Kinlaw, Nick Bosa. Like, they want to draft defensive linemen with premium picks. Their success when they went to that first Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo was predicated because of the defensive line. They want to keep rebuilding that. Robert Saleh coming back, I think, is a good move in that direction to continue to improve the D-line. And Michael Williams got a really high ceiling. Played most of last season hurt. He's relatively young as well. I think he's one of the youngest players taken in the first round this year. A lot of length in there as well. So if they wanted an edge rusher, Michael Williams was your guy there if he was available. But again, Walter Nolan, I think for that interior D-line pressure, would have been nice if Williams wasn't available. The Cowboys at 12, this one ruffled some feathers, and I don't really know why. Yes, I know, like, Matthew Gold would have been fun. Matthew Gold would have been a lot of fun here, but if you look at the recent draft history with the Cowboys and Jerry Jones, they want to draft offensive linemen. Like, you look at Tyler Guyton. You look at Tyler Smith. You look at Tyler Booker this year. Like, we had Tyler Booker going to the Cowboys early on in the process, but the more and more we got closer to the draft, it was like, oh, they're actually going to draft a wide receiver this year. So I think people got their hopes up a little bit. But let's not act like Tyler Booker is a bad football player or fills an immediate need for them. I mean, Zach Martin just retired. You're going to want to fill that need there. Brian Schottenheimer is going to want to run the football. I mean, look at his last name. It's Schottenheimer. Schottenheimer. He wants to run the football. That's just what they do. That's what the Schottenheimers want to do. And Tyler Booker, if you're wanting an interior offensive lineman to help grade lanes in the rushing game, that's your guy. And yes, again, Matthew Golden would have been fun. Matthew Golden would have been a great pick here, but I'm not mad with the Tyler Booker pick. Sorry, I think it fills an immediate need, and it's very much within the ethos of what the Cowboys have done in recent draft history. Again, you got 3 Tylers now on the offensive line, so might as well keep trying to double down. It's too bad Tyler Biadasz went over to Washington last year, because you just had 4 Tylers on the offensive line. Damn shame. But I think it's I like the pick. I like it. And 13, the Miami Dolphins, they took Kenneth Grant. This is a little bit higher than what I was expecting, but it does fill an immediate need for the Miami Dolphins. You look at their defensive line, it's just not great. I think they have 4 players along the defensive line right now. They run a 3-front. Christian Wilkins, obviously, last offseason went to the Vegas Raiders. They just never really filled that hole. I had Mason Graham going here because, again, the reports have suggested Graham was going to fall down the draft board. I had him going here. I just had the wrong Michigan guy. Graham, again, is a big-bodied dude, one of the most athletic dudes in the draft. Given his size, big guys should not be able to move like that. And Michigan had one of the best defensive lines in college football. It's just a shame that the rest of the team, especially on offense, didn't really click with that mindset. Yes, Khalil Mullings was fun on offense, but we're not talking about Michigan as a team. I know they ended the season really well, but yeah, Kenneth Grant, again, fills an immediate need. They're big-bodied in there. I thought he was a lock to go to the Chargers. I thought he was guaranteed, bona fide, surefire, a lock to go to the Chargers. But he ended up going 9 picks earlier to the Miami Dolphins. But again, I'm not mad. Well, I'm mad at the pick because the AFC East is all strengthening in the trenches right now, and I don't really like that. I'm not the biggest fan of that. So, yeah, but I think for the Dolphins, in regards to their biggest need, I think that was their biggest need. There are going to be people linked with them with offensive tackles, but there's nobody really available there for them, and they've been pretty adamant that they're comfortable with Patrick Paul, their second-round pick from last year, to start at left tackle, even though Taron Armstead retired this year. That was going to be a big thing. I know they were linked with like Jahdae Barron, Will Johnson. They were linked with Malachi Starks from Georgia as well, as a player who I was told that I saw they really liked. Their biggest need, they take the biggest player. And yeah, I think it's a good pick at 13. 14, the Indianapolis Colts, Tyler Warren. Again, the need for a tight end was evident. I just had the tight end slipped around. I had Warren going to the Bears. I had Loveland going to the Colts. And in reality, it was Loveland going to the Bears, Warren going to the Colts. I think Warren just adds a whole lot of stuff to this Colts offense. You're trying to get the best out of Anthony Richardson. And this is probably the final straw for Anthony Richardson, I guess. And I like him. I want him to do well. And I think by adding a guy like Tyler Warren who could do so many different things for you on the opposite side of the ball, yeah. Warren, it fills an immediate need, and I like the pick there for the Colts. Loveland would have been a great pick as well, but obviously he was gone. 15, the Falcons, Jalen Walker. They took a defensive player. And they took that clock all the way down because I'm sure there were some people in that war room like, hey, Shedeur Sanders is still available. We got to take Shedeur Sanders. We got to take him here. But they took the best player available. I was surprised that he lasted this long. I didn't think Jalen Walker would get out of the top 10. I really didn't. Jalen Walker is, I believe, I saw this a couple weeks ago, and I've never actually fact-checked it. The first Georgia player the Atlanta Falcons have ever taken in the first round, which I think is absolutely crazy. But you fill an immediate need there, both at linebacker and at edge rusher. Depends on where you want to play Jalen Walker. So you can play both very, very well. But Jalen Walker, best player available, fills an immediate need. I had them taking, who did I have them taking? James Pierce, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. Yeah, I like the pick of Walker. Again, I just didn't think he'd be available here. 16, the Cardinals, Walter Nolan from Ole Miss. I thought he'd be gone by this point. I thought he would go to the San Francisco 49ers at 11. There were a lot of reports suggesting that it would be very unlikely that he fell outside the top 15, and he fell one pick outside the top 15. But the Cardinals, they've made a concerted effort to improve their defensive line. They brought back Calais Campbell. They brought in Dalvin Tomlinson, made a big splash in free agency by bringing in Josh Sweat. Like, the Cardinals want to improve the defensive side of the ball. Jonathan Gannon is a defensive-minded head coach. I had them taking Emeka Egbuka to pair up with Marvin Harrison Jr. because apart from him, you look at Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch. I think Zay Jones is still on the roster. Like, they don't have another reliable option outside. You got Trey McBride, obviously, but a reliable option at wide receiver apart from Marvin Harrison Jr. and adding Egbuka with that familiarity with Harrison, I thought would have been good. But I do understand the move with Walter Nolan. You could say he was the best player available. And he fills, again, an immediate need along the Cardinals' defensive line. They were linked constantly with edge rushers and defensive linemen, and they were talking about like picking an impact player on defense. And to some people, Walter Nolan was the best interior defensive lineman in this draft class. There were some character concerns in there. Overall, I think it's a very good pick for the Cardinals. At 17, the Cincinnati Bengals, Shamar Stewart. I had Mike Green, but I completely understand why Mike Green didn't end up going here. I saw some reports that suggested that the Bengals would be fine with some of the off-the-field stuff that Mike Green has been involved in this offseason, but I'm not going to touch on that here, but you can go, we'll throw something on the screen here for you probably, but there were some reports that they'd look past that, but Shamar Stewart, ceiling-wise, there might not be a higher ceiling in the draft, but in that same breath, there might not be a lower floor than anybody in this draft. I mean, 4.5 sacks through 3 years at Texas A&M is not really going to get anybody excited. So I'm sure there's some Bengals fans out there that aren't too thrilled about the drafting of Shamar Stewart, especially with someone like Mike Green available or Donovan Ezeraku available there. But he's just a freaking unit. You saw what he did at the Combine. You saw what he did throughout the Senior Bowl week as well. Like, as big as Miles. I always think it's funny when people are like, this guy's as big as this player. Well, that doesn't mean he's going to directly stop comparing him to them. Stop doing that. because you're going to get people's hopes up and they're going to set unrealistic expectations. I think Shamar Stewart is a very nice addition to the Bengals defense. You look at Al Golden coming in from Notre Dame as the defense coordinator, adding a versatile piece who can play both inside and outside. He's a solid run defender in a division that has the teams like the Browns, Ravens, and Steelers who want to run the football more than anything. I think it's a smart move. Again, you can play him inside and outside. I'm not going to sit here and say like that solves the Trey Hendrickson situation because they're going to need to figure out that, but I think it's a good fit. Good ceiling. If he becomes the player that his ceiling suggests, the Bengals got a good player, but he's got a lot of work to get to that point, but the tools are all there. Let's just see if he knows how to use them. And then the Seahawks at number 18, Gray Zabel from North Dakota State. Yeah, it just makes the most sense. The Seahawks want to run the football. They want to establish line of scrimmage. Mike McDonald's run-first coach. I mean, he's a defensive-minded head coach, but you look at where he came from. He came from Baltimore and Michigan. Two places that predicated running the football. And you've got solid running backs back there, but for whatever reason, the Seahawks couldn't establish the run. I say for whatever reason. They just didn't have an offensive line. They moved on from Ryan Grubb because the ideals of what Ryan Grubb wanted to do and what McDonald wanted to do were different. Grubb wanted to throw the ball. McDonald wanted to run the ball. Again, defensive-minded head coach. Just makes sense. And Zabel is the best next best interior lineman available, and he just fits an immediate need for it. Can play all across the front line for the Seahawks. It just felt like a very natural fit there at 18 and 19. The Buccaneers at Emeka Egbuka. I saw links with Matthew Golden here a little bit, but at Emeka Egbuka going to be the second wide receiver in the draft is not surprising. Again, I had him going 16 to Arizona. The Buccaneers, I thought they would take a defensive player. I saw them with like Giad Campbell, which I understand why they didn't take Campbell because of the shoulder issues and stuff like that. Donovan Ezra was a player they were constantly linked to. I had them taking Max Harrison from Kentucky. Speedy corner. We'll talk about him a little bit later as well. But they ended up going receiver. Again, I just thought they were locked in on taking a defender, but man, I was wrong. You pair him with Mike Evans, who's getting older, Chris Godwin, who's getting older. You have Jalen McMillan there already. So getting a guy like Egbuka just adds on to the offense. Like they were explosive offense last year. Baker Mayfield's playing great football right now. You got a very good running back in Bucky Brooks. Just keep adding on to the offense, I guess. I like it. It surprised me at the time because, again, I was so locked in on taking a defender. I haven't seen what Bucs fans have thought about, but Egbuka, per reports, one of the most liked players in the NFL draft. It sounded like every single team that was in this process of the range of taking a wide receiver absolutely loved him. Big time player at Ohio State. Didn't have the greatest year the season prior, but came back this year, put up 1,000 yards receiving, led the team in receptions. They went on to win a national championship game. Could do a lot of slot motions and stuff like that. Very willing run blocker, which I think is important for this Buccaneers offense. He's just a great player. And he's not like an absolute burner or anything like a guy we'll talk about here in a little bit, but I think he adds another element to that Bucs offense. It gives Baker Mayfield another reliable target. Number 20, the Denver Broncos, a team that were linked with moving up the board, which I never bought because remember last year they were linked with making a big move up the draft board, but they just wanted players to, I guess, go. I don't know. I wasn't really buying any of the Denver Broncos trade-up rumors. There was a lot of things linked on the Travion Henderson from Ohio State, the running back. Omari Hampton was someone that was linked with them for a long time. One of the receivers, Emeka Egbuka or Matthew Golden. I had them taking Golden with the 20th pick. Colston Loveland was someone I saw linked with them as well. Like, I think what I can say here, no one really thought they were going to take a defender. I did see Nick Imanwari as a possibility here, but he didn't even end up going in the first round. They took Jahdae Barron from Texas, and Jahdae Barron's a very high character individual. I mean, I saw something that he had them put the phone on speaker when they drafted just to thank everybody for the process and everything. Jim Thorpe Award winner, can play inside, can play outside. Like, he just adds another element to the Denver Broncos defense, who has the reigning defensive player of the year in Patrick Surtain. Like, the Broncos, they made the playoffs last year, and they're just hoping to continue to build on that. But I just thought Sean Payton would take an offensive player to continue to add to the offensive side of the ball with a Golden or an offensive web, a Travion Henderson or Omari Hampton or somebody like that. But Barron's not a bad player by any stretch of the imagination. I think he's a great player. I'm surprised. I shouldn't say I'm surprised because I had him going to the Rams at 26, but there were some moments where it was like, oh, he could be a top 10 pick. We brought him up earlier with the Jets potentially linked with them, but the Broncos, I think he's a good player. It just surprised me that they went in this direction. And then 21, the Steelers, the most watched pick of the entire night, they took Derek Harmon, D-tackle from Oregon. I had them taking Derek Harmon. Like, there was a lot of talk about them taking Shedeur Sanders, and rightfully so. I mean, Mike Tomlin talked about them wanting 4 quarterbacks on the roster going into the season. Right now they have 2. It's Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson. But the bigger need was on the defensive line. Not bigger need, because obviously Mason Rudolph's going to start your season. As of right now, they're probably going to sign Aaron Rodgers and stuff, but the biggest need for them, really, is on the defensive line. I keep saying, I'm not trying to word it like that, because quarterback's the most important position on the football field, but the Steelers made it abundantly clear that they were going to draft a defensive lineman early in the draft. I mean, Mike Tomlin, I brought this up in previous videos before. Mike Tomlin is very bad about tipping his hand before the draft. You watch Mike Tomlin at the Senior Bowl. If he's around a specific position, there's a 90% chance they're going to draft that player. And he was around the defensive lineman, the interior defensive lineman. It makes sense. I mean, Larry Ogunjobi went to Buffalo. Cam Hayward's getting older, so it makes sense to add an interior presence there. And I saw stuff that, like, the Steelers didn't view as any of the quarterbacks as first-round talents, but as Shedeur started falling, or as the reports of Shedeur falling started to come out, it's like, oh, we might take one here. But every time I saw somebody say the Steelers would take Shedeur Sanders, they never sounded confident. It was like, I don't know. So with that, I was like, well, if you're not confident and you got the reports and stuff, why am I going to believe that? So I ended up going with Harmon, who I've seen people talking about being an NFC North style player. He's very good at getting after the quarterback. He fits what the Steelers want to do on the defensive side of the ball. And it might not be Shedeur. There's some people that are upset about it. I understand. But Derek Harmon, I think, was always the Steelers' play here. Maybe Kenneth Grant, but it felt like a defensive lineman for the past few weeks now. So yeah, it makes sense there, even though a lot of people, again, want Shedeur. I'm intrigued to see what they do when they draft a quarterback on day 2. So they're probably going to draft one, but they don't have the capital to get up to draft one of the other top guys. Surprise for some people, not really that big of a surprise for me. 22, the Chargers took Omari Hampton. This one kind of surprised me, because if they were going to take a running back, I thought it'd be Travion Henderson. Because adding that speed element, he can break off a 75-yard touchdown on a screen pass like we saw against Texas, but he's also a very, very, very willing pass blocker. Like, he doesn't wait for the guys to get into him. He absorbs the content and pushes back into them. Now, I had them taking Kenneth Grant because, again, it just felt like a natural fit there. But Jim Harbaugh wants to run the football. They brought in Najee Harris this year, but how long is he going to be in LA? Omari Hampton adds that other element to the offense. Like, when we were at the Combine, it was like, oh, Omari Hampton's locked himself in the first round. But as we got closer, it was like, I don't know if he did. I don't know if a team's really going to take a running back. They were linked with the Broncos, but after the Broncos, like, well, all these other teams don't really need running backs. Like, the Steelers were linked with them, the Chargers were linked with them, the Vikings were linked with them, the Commanders were linked with them, but the Chargers ended up pulling the trigger on it. I think it would have been different if Grant had been there, but this was also kind of surprising that they didn't take Will Johnson, a team that needs a corner. Jim Harbaugh brought Will Johnson into Michigan, so hey, that shows how big the injury was with him, and we'll talk about Will Johnson as the thing goes on. But Omari Hampton, I think he adds a nice little thing to the offense. We talked about getting more pieces for Justin Herbert on offense. I mean, hey, I like Omari Hampton, so I think it's a good fit there for the Chargers. In 23, the Green Bay Packers, they took Matthew Golden. They drafted in Green Bay. They finally took a wide receiver. The first time since 2002, they finally took a wide receiver. They were linked constantly with corners. They were linked with edge rushers. I had them taking Shamar Stewart because he felt like a very Packers player in regards to tools, traits over production in college, which tends to be the players they target in the first round. Is hope they can build on top of that. I saw some people like Peter Schrager, Brendan Donahue talking about the Packers taking a wide receiver, and it's just so hard to believe that. And the need was there. I mean, Josh Jacobs said as much. He was like, oh, we need that true number one receiver in the receiving room. And Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, they're both free agents next year. Christian Watson has battled injuries throughout his entire career in the NFL up to this point. Romeo Doubs was linked with trades away from the Packers throughout last season. He's been linked with trades so far this offseason as well. And Matthew Golden is an absolute burner. He ran a 4.29, 4.28 at the combine. We didn't really need to see that as much as Texas because they ran a lot of crossing routes, but when you needed him to take the top of the defense, he would do that. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but he adds a nice receiver to the Packers. Again, first receiver taken in the first round since 2002. That is crazy. I didn't really think he'd be here. So I'm kind of surprised that if he was even available here, but it makes sense. If they were looking at, like, maybe they were looking at Shamar Stewart. I don't know. But a team like the Packers, I just couldn't see them taking Will Johnson, so I had them passing on them. Maxwell Harrison, if he was available, which I didn't have, if he was available, I thought he'd be an option here as well, especially with the constant links with Jair Alexander and all that stuff, getting him traded away. But receiver has been a position the team has always talked about, the fans have always talked about. Now they finally did it, so now they can rest. They can rest now. They took Matthew Golden, and hopefully it works out for him. 24, the Vikings, they took Donovan Jackson, guard tackle from Ohio State. They were going to take an interior offensive lineman. I had them taking Tyler Booker, teammate with J.J. McCarthy in high school, but there were constant links with cornerbacks and safeties and stuff like that. And that makes sense. I mean, you lost some key pieces of the secondary. Harrison Smith getting older as well, but your main thing this year, let's keep the main thing. You've got to keep J.J. McCarthy healthy. He's coming off a meniscus tear. He's going to be your starting quarterback this year. You added some good pieces. You added Will Fries. You added in Ryan Kelly, but that other guard spot next to Kelly still needs addressed. And Donovan Jackson steps right in and fills that immediate spot. He played left tackle to Ohio State after Josh Simmons went down last year. He is a beast along the outside line. And with Ohio State, you need to be adapted run blocking and pass blocking. And that's what he's going to do in Minnesota. I think it's a very, very good pick for them. Again, Tyler Booker was the guy I thought they would target here if he was available, but he wasn't. So Donovan Jackson's there, and that made it clear, because I had the Texans taking Donovan Jackson, and that made it clear that's who they were targeting, because they traded completely out of the first round, but the New York Giants took Jackson Dart. And I went into this mock draft with Jackson Dart as the QB2 in the mock draft, not overall, but like the second quarterback taken in the draft. I didn't have Shedeur Sanders go in the first round at all. And if you look at like fit with the team, Jackson Dart fits the Giants a lot more than what Shedeur Sanders does. Shedeur Sanders is a very anticipatory thrower. He's very accurate with the intermediate throws. He's not necessarily the greatest deep ball thrower of all time. He's not necessarily the most mobile guy out there, but he's tough as hell. I think he fits a team like the Cleveland Browns. But Dart, who's erratic, very much erratic. We talked about the constant ebbs and flows with him this season. We have a 515 game, and then we have a 142 picks, touchdown, 50% completion percentage. Like, we have all these ebbs and flows. He's not afraid to try and make a play, which I think is a big thing with Brian Daboll in this style of offense. They did announce that Russell Wilson will be the starter going into the year, but Jackson Dart has the playmaking ability that I think Daboll is looking for from the quarterback position. Obviously, coming from Buffalo, they tried to do that with Daniel Jones. The one thing with Jackson Dart that I want him to not do as much in the NFL is try to run people over. He cannot do that. Cannot do that anymore. That has got to go. And there's some concerns, obviously, with the offense that he's coming from, an RPO style of offense, quick reads and stuff like that, not really having to go through too many progressions. They're running a lot of crossing routes in there, layered crossing routes. So we'll see how that works with the Giants, but I think he's got the talent and he's got the skill set of what Daboll's looking for. And I had him going to the Giants a couple picks later, but the Rams at 26, this kind of made it seem like the Rams were targeting Jackson Dart. And you could see why. I mean, Matthew Stafford's getting older, and I know he re-upped his contract and everything like that, but he's getting older. Sean McVay is going to want his eventual quarterback of the future, but they traded out of the first round entirely with the Falcons, who took James Pierce, who I had them taking at 15. I think the player's a good fit. I think the price they paid is a little steep. Now, if he ends up working out, beautiful. You don't care about the first round pick next year, but to give up a first round pick to trade back in for James Pierce kind of was a head scratcher, but I like the fit with James Pierce, a bendy, very lean edge rusher, and a position of need that's been a problem area for a number of years now. They address it twice. And again, Jalen Walker, you could play at linebacker, you could play at edge rusher, and James Pierce, that natural edge rusher in there. But again, I think the price is a little too steep for what they gave up to get him, but I think he's a good player. I think he fits with what they want to do on that side of the ball. And yeah, we had him going there. And the Lions at 28, this is the first player in the first round that I didn't have in the first round. That's Tyleik Williams, who I thought would be in the conversation for the Bills at 30. For the Detroit Lions, they needed bigger bodies. They needed players on the defensive side of the ball. They battled a shit ton of injuries last year. It was like they're either going to take a guard to replace Kevin Zeitler, or they're going to take a D lineman. I had them trading out of the first round entirely, because once the top D linemen were gone, and I stopped that with Kenneth Grant at 22, I didn't think they would take another D lineman here. Like, you look at the guys going, like Graham went, Grant went, Nolan went, Harmon went. Like, the drop-off from Harmon seemingly to the next best defensive lineman seemed like a big enough drop to where you wouldn't take one in the first round, but there were some talks about Tyleik Williams going there. Again, I thought the Bills would be a team that looked at him. They obviously didn't get a chance to look at him. I think he fills an immediate need. Their big body in there as well. I think he's been compared to Alan McNeil as well. So got him already there. So good person to learn from, I guess. But it made sense that they go with a bigger body in there. Donovan Ezaraku was a guy I saw them linked with quite a bit. Mike Green being available here as well was someone that they were going to be linked with quite a bit as well. I like the Tyleik Williams pick for the Lions. It did surprise me though, because again, he was the only player I didn't have going in the first round of my entire mock draft. 29, the Commanders, they took Josh Connerly Jr., who I thought the Houston Texans were going to take if Donovan Jackson was available in the second round. Like, that's who I thought they were going to go with. And you look at what was kind of funny. It's like they took away Laramie Tunsil from the Texans, and you take the guy that they were potentially targeting with their first pick in the second round at pick 29. Now, the Commanders are making a conceded effort to improve their offensive line. Like, Jane Daniels was sacked quite a bit. He was hit quite a bit last year. He's not the biggest guy in the world. Yes, he's taller, but he's not the biggest dude in the world. And he's going to be running a lot. So he's going to take some unnecessary hits in there. bringing in Laramie Tunsil, bringing in Josh Connerly drastically improves the offensive line from what it was a season before. And you're in a division, like we talked about before with the Giants, with Abdul Carter, you're in a division with the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the Giants. You got Abdul Carter, you got Micah Parsons, you got everybody the Eagles could throw at you. You got to improve that offensive line, and the Commanders have done that. I thought edge rusher or corner would be an option here, but offensive line definitely makes a lot of sense there for them at 29. The Bills at 30, Max Hairston, as he wants to be called. Speed for days. Fastest player of the combine, ran a 4.28 40. The Bills, one thing they've lacked in the secondary for the past however many seasons is speed. I talked about this when the Bills played the Chiefs in the regular season. Like, the Bills will match up well against DeAndre Hopkins, those types of players, but where they struggle is Xavier Worthy, because they're a very zone-heavy team. They're a very physical very physical secondary. I mean, you look at Rasul Douglas and Christian Benford last year, two of the bigger corners, probably the biggest cornerback pairing in the NFL. So bringing in Maxwell Hairston, who's 5'11", about $185, something like that, is kind of a flip from what they were last year, but that's the position that they needed. They needed, again, to add more speed. The only thing I'm concerned about is his tackling. He's not the biggest guy in the world. He's not the most physical guy in the world. But you're in a division with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Tyreek Hill for now, I guess, and you play the Chiefs damn near twice a year, every year anyways. So you're going to play against Xavier Worthy. So you need guys to match up with those speed guys, because the Bills just get the top taken off them every time they play those deep guys, those speedy guys. So I like the fit of Hairston in that aspect, but Will Johnson was available. I'm kind of surprised they didn't go that direction. I thought stylistically he fit the Bills more than Maxwell Hairston. Same with Trey Amos from Ole Miss, but again, I didn't think Maxwell Hairston would be here. Max Hairston, sorry. I didn't think he'd be here. So the fact that he was, I think it's a great fit for the Bills. He seems like a good locker room guy as well. I mean, you saw him at the draft, high-fiving every single player they got drafted. I think that's a good locker room fit for the Bills. He's got a relationship with Ray Davis already, who's on the Bills roster. So I like the fit, or like the pick. There's some concerns I have, but overall, I think it's a good pick. Seal of approval from Logan. Adds a lot of speed, which, again, what the Bills needed in that secondary. And then we saw the Eagles and Chiefs trade their last two picks of the first round. The Eagles took Giad Campbell, who we had taken to the Chiefs, took Josh Simmons. And it was kind of funny. I had Josh Simmons going to the Chiefs the entire mock draft season, but when I posted mock draft 4.0, I originally had him taking Josh Connerly. And I was like, this is going to piss me off because they're going to take Josh Simmons, or they're going to end up taking Simmons. And in previous years where I've done something the entire time and changed it last second, it always goes to the person that I've had taking the entire time. So I was not going to do that here. So I ended up going with Josh Simmons anyways, and ended up working out. Campbell would not have been available if not for the injuries. He would have been long gone by this point. Teams like the Cardinals, teams like the Buccaneers at 19 would have been logical fits there for him. But hey, that's the Eagles' gain, and that's the players they always get in the first round. Players that fall a lot further than what they should, that we never thought would make it to that point, they make it there. But that's the end of the first round. The second round will start later today. Well, it'll be gone by the time this video comes out. The third round the day 3 might be done. I don't know if this video is coming out on Saturday or Sunday. I know we usually post on Saturdays, but I'm recording this on a Friday, so we'll see how this all works out scheduling wise when I can get it done and edited and all that stuff. It might come out on Monday. I have no idea. But the first round, it was fun. It was fun. In total, I got 29 out of 32 players. I didn't have Tyreek Williams. I didn't have Josh Connerly. And I did not have... Who was the last one in there? Who else did I not have in there? There's one other player I didn't have in there. I'm trying to remember who it was. I'm not going to look at it. It was Connerly, Tyreek Williams, and... Was it just those two? Okay, I got to look at it because now I'm not... now I'm struggling here. Who did I not have? Amari and Hampton. I didn't have Amari and Hampton in there. So... yeah, 29 out of 32 players. I got 11 picks right. It would have been 13 if I got the freaking tight ends flipped around. But again, it wasn't about where they were picked. It's about the team and player. So I got Cam Ward. I got Abdul Carter. I got Will Campbell. I got Armand Membo. I got... not the tight ends. Again, would have been good if I got the tight ends flipped around. Didn't get those guys. I got Gray Zabel. I got Derek Harmon. I got Jackson Dart with the Giants. I got James Pierce with the Atlanta Falcons. I got I skipped Malachi Starks. Great player. Great player. That's a natural fit there. They talk about wanting to play Kyle Hamilton a more free role. Malachi Starks will play the deep safety role, and he's damn good. Damn good player. I wanted him to slip to the Bills, but I didn't think that was a realistic option there. But great player. Great player. I don't know how I skipped that one, but great player. And then I had Giad Campbell and Josh Simmons going to the Eagles and Chiefs. They just flipped the picks around. But yeah, I enjoyed round 1. Stressful going into it because I didn't know what would happen. But I'll take 11 picks, right? So, I'll accept it. But yeah, round 1's done. Round 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 underway. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you didn't, I sincerely apologize. Make sure to check out Mock Draft 4.0 down in the description below. Make sure to check out all the different links down there as well. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up as well. I've been Logan Blackman. I hope you enjoyed. If you didn't, I sincerely apologize. Try to be better next time, and I will see you guys later. Peace.